So a short presentation of me. I have a passion for involving people and also how organizations works and team works, improving the way of working and simplify, motivating people. I am right now an agile coach at Tetra Pak. Before that, I had several positions. I have been a Scrum Master, a design sprint facilitator, and I came in contact with agile methodologies first time 8 years ago. And it was love at first sight, so I thought this was something I believed in, and we started to experiment in Tetra Pak, and I quickly saw the good results and the impact it had on people and their motivation and engagement. So I continued on that road. I working with Scrum, Kanban, Scale Agile Framework, design thinking, and so on. And my red thread in my career have always been product development, and within that, project management ways of working. Okay, so just a short introduction to Tetra Pak. I guess you all, when you think about Tetra Pak, maybe you think of all these packages, the Tetra, brick and so on, that we have in our grocery stores. But we are also a processing company. And our founder, Ruben Rousing, said that a package should save more than it costs. And our philosophy is that we protect what's good everywhere. And we are in the whole world in 160 countries. We have 54 factories presenting packaging material and other type of material. And within Tetra Pak, we have a development and technology organization that we are about 1,500 people. And within that, we have an organization called Industrial-Based Engineering. And we are developing the converting machines, producing the packaging material that then come to the customer, and the customer fill that with liquid. So we both done industrial our development solutions, and we also create processes on how to use them, a lot of know-how around that. We are around 250 people, most of us based in Lund, and we have important hubs in our factories in the world, and many of us are also traveling to our factories, of course, all over the world. Okay, so in Tetra Pak, 2014, there was the first experiment with Agile, and it was really a bottom-up experiment. There was someone in project management in some part of the company that read about Agile and were quite frustrated about the long leading time project taking like 5 years, and then when it came out, no one sold it and it wasn't used. So he convinced management in that part of the organization to do an experiment, and they started the first Scrum team. And what he really focused on then was moving the work to a stable team. So it was a lot about the stable team, and then the other parts came along kind of, but that was the main focus. And it very rapidly spread the rumors in the company that people were very engaged, they liked working there, there was like transparent, good communication, they take the decisions themselves, and also they could release things faster. So then other parts of the organization also get interested. But management, the top management so far, didn't dare to do anything. But there were several experiments popping up in the organization. But then management was preparing a 2030 strategy around the same time. And this feels like a small bump in the road compared to what's happening now. But then it was a big change. So we have all the digital infrastructures, we could do grocery shopping digitally, and they anticipated that would grow enormous, of course affecting the grocery supply chain and so on. And there were also all this anti-plastic movement, on the climate change, a lot of sustainability focus. So they realized that we needed to change a bit how we worked. Tetra Pak has a culture of optimizing and making more efficient what we already know. And that's all about having control. So management and governance was a lot about controlling and following up, that people were doing what they should and that the projects were doing what they had planned to and so on. Not taking too much risk, it could affect our food safety. That would be terrible, of course. Very hierarchical structure. Also, about half, for maybe a third of our development organization is based in Italy, and it's quite a different culture. Also, what management says, you do, and you don't take that much own decisions and so on. But then we understood that we needed to move from the exploit model to a more explore, to learn faster, to adapt to changes faster, to listen to the team, and they be more self-organization and instead of management telling them what to do. And also learning from our mistakes, don't hiding them, but more learning and knowledge building. So then Tetra Pak started to pilot. We had some existing pilots in the organization. We started benchmarking with other companies, and then realized that Agile had a lot of these values and behaviors and so on that we were looking for. So in 2017, Tetra Pak, of course, we needed to do our own thing. So we couldn't just take the Agile principle as such. We needed to Tetra Pakify it. So it ended up in these 6 principles. So a lot of focus on the customer involvement and ability to adapt. So instead of then having this project for 5 years and then the customer didn't want what we had developed, we tried to start having a more close dialogue with them. To have the decisions closer to the teams, deliver more frequent delivery of value. Before it was, as I said, after 5 years. Now we try to pack it a bit differently, and also with the digital infrastructure and the development there, try to have more frequent releases. Also focusing not on 10 projects in a project team, focusing on one project, the most prioritized one. Our teams, as I said before, and the Scrum team's way of working, to have stable teams that have the same focus and so on. And then, of course, a culture of all the time share and learn. But this was the principles. But it's not easy to change a culture when you had come from the more exploit, and there are a company that many stays for a very long time, many their whole career, and then many have been very successful in their previous way of working, and then suddenly someone comes here and say we should do it differently. So it was a challenge, of course, and it has been longer journeys in some parts of the company, depending on culture and so, and also, of course, depending on what the top management at that part of the organization believes in. But in 2019, the company took the decision that we need to move into a more agile operating model. And then the implementation starts, and we created a lot of cross-functional program teams in the development organization. It says more than 25, I think now we are 35 or so. Also started all these Scrum teams, development teams. I think today maybe we were 150, it's all the time growing. And all this to manage all this rapid change and have more focus on the customer. And we did a lot of trainings and handbooks and definitions and everything. So it was a huge transformation. And it took time, and it was not easy, but I think it succeeded due to that there was a bottom-up movement in the company. So people were really adapting to this and really had the engagement to do it. Then, when we had to start to implement this agile operating model, we saw that we don't get really all the benefits that we are looking for. And we were working to a traditional waterfall storage gauge product creation process. So we understood this is clashing, this is not working. So we started to develop and define a new one. This process had been used for 20 years or so, so it's not easy to say, okay, we will design a new one. And there were like 1,500 people working in this process. And also management felt very secure in this process because they knew they had control. But we tried then, or we actually organized when creating this process as design sprints. So we introduced that methodology, and that in that way we could include reviewers from all over the company, and we could have the experts working very focused and just for a sprint and get their knowledge. So the aim with this new product creation process was to improve the system quality. So far we had more or less focused on the products and delivering new products, not all the time, not on the full solution with the hardware and the software. Also on the life cycle perspective, I mean, there was one team, a product team developing, and when it was developed, there was some people somewhere that needed to do life cycle management, and they didn't have all the knowledge and so on. It was also we also wanted to have more focus on speed, and as I mentioned, release value stepwise, and we introduced the minimum viable products and releases and so on, and it doesn't have to be the perfect product directly. So it was a bit of, I think, difficult also for our market companies that was used to just present the perfect picture. Suddenly they should have more collaboration with the customer instead of just presenting the perfect product. And also we wanted to be more proactive, not just following up how it went in the projects, also be more dynamic and adapting based on what's happening in the world. And we started also to create, embed these technical roadmaps that have been created in one part of the company with the development, so it was all merged. And of course with agile principles. So in the process we actually introduced backlog management and Kanban for the programs, and from all top down, from the needs down to the teams, to be able to manage this continuous pipeline. And then we have, instead of having checklist and we used to have toll gates, instead we were focusing on the solution maturity. So in governance we were always reviewing, okay, what is the solution maturity? Are we mature enough to release something? Instead of looking, have we checked all the points in the process? And then we had the challenge with governance, and then we had all these governance events, meetings, and then we had all the agile events, and they were colliding, and people were like booked all the time, they felt like. So we needed to simplify that and merge it. So then we developed this lean decision and a framework that could be scalable depending on what type of product you were developing and what part of company and how complex it was. And that would then simplify decision making. So it looks perfect, but and I can say, before I continue, I can say I think it's an excellent intention, and we have come so far, but of course it's not working everywhere, and I think I will come a bit to, because my part of the organization that I belong to, I kind of choose that organization because I thought that this is where it actually works, and that was due to several reasons. So I will come to the success factors and the challenges for other parts of the organization. So this is now focusing on the organization I belong to. So we are then developing the converting machines producing the packaging material and the software products and the digital infrastructure to that. And we are right now 5 agile teams. We started with one, and then we have like more and more teams have implemented SAFe. And we started also with our first Scrum team 2016. Then I was not a part of the organization, but it started in a small scale, and then it ramped up quite quickly. And we have both done what I call horizontal teams. They are then focusing on the hardware, on the equipment as such. And then we have the vertical teams that are focusing on the software and the supporting parts. So it's a quite complex picture, and there's a lot of dependencies in different ways. So that is a challenge we have, of course. Then we also, the needs that come then from the factories and from our strategy and so on, they come into us in program management, and then we have 4 different programs that are then organized based on the strategy. So, and these teams do not belong to a certain program. What they work on is depending, if they work towards one or another program, depends on what's in their pipeline. So that is quite complex, and there are, of course, a lot of advantages and disadvantages, but I think we have come to a point now that we need to start organizing ourselves maybe more in arts to manage all the dependencies and minimize them a bit more. But if I go back to why I choose to be working in this organization, why I think it has worked so good here, because it's one thing if you say, okay, we are agile mature, we run all the events, we have all these roles, we speak the language, but it's all about the mindset, and it's all and how the collaboration is, of course, and also the collaboration from top down. And I think a difference that they did here in this part of the organization was that they believed in this from top down. So they thought, okay, we should recruit an agile coach to do this implementation. So it was not just like some small team somewhere needed to do this implementation on the side. It's a dedicated agile coach, and most of this I would like to say is thanks to him, and maybe some of you know him. His name is Roland Beckley. He used to have my position, but now he's retired, so I'm taking over. And also it was the program management leadership leading this transformation. So there was a lot of mandate to change. And then I think when it comes to the teams, it was not like, okay, now you have a backlog, and now you have a sprint review, so now you're an agile team. No, it was like a stepwise structured implementation, and we created this team maturity ladder, so the team could all the time have objectives, or in what direction should they grow, and they are continuously assessed also. And now the latest part of this is that we added the psychological safety and agile mindset also to this team maturity ladder. But I think one, of course, thing that is difficult maybe to affect, but of course it helps that we are co-located. Most of us sits in the same place, in the same area. It's much easier to collaborate then. So that's, of course, an advantage we have. But then also, if I compare to many other parts of Tetra Pak, they didn't really understand why we should have Scrum Masters. We have program managers. They can be both product owners and Scrum Masters. So that's the situation in many parts of the organization, and then they don't get the full benefits. They don't get the full implementation. But in this part of the organization, instead they choose to have, instead of the program manager becoming the product owners, they took line managers becoming the product owners, transferring them, and they didn't have that experience of planning and organizing development. So then the Scrum Master role becomes so important, and they get a much more credit and focus on the Scrum Master role. And they were really focusing on how to develop and the product owners more than on what that it should be. But I think a problem we have with many other parts of the organization is that we rename the project managers to product owners, and then we have Scrum Masters in the program just organizing the PI planning. but I think that's why we also don't get all the benefits everywhere. So, of course we have challenges, and we have more to come, what I can understand from Carl presenting here. But we try to have focus on these challenges and be transparent on them. When I started now half a year ago, I had after a couple of months I had a meeting with my manager, and I pointed out this is our problems, this is where we need to focus. Of course, we are like all other organizations. It's do these big changes and it requires too much effort. But what we have started so far is to push instead of pull. So even if we have implemented Agile and we say we should have like one backlog, one priority, there are all these different stakeholders, coming in and say, but mine are more than priority, and then blah, 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 blah. And suddenly we have so much at our highest priority. So now we are focusing from the programs that they should not push in things. They should pull the teams. They should only have one backlog item in their backlog. I mean, when it comes to product epics, so they can know what to do next and when they are ready. And then we also want the Agile teams to find the optimal VIP limit. How many product development epics can we have? Because most of our teams are DevOps. So they have a lot of LCM, and we have a challenge because we are developing more and more products. We don't make that much obsolete. As it's hardware, the lifetime is quite long. So our LCM is just growing. And now we're trying them to outsource into suppliers, but that is a big challenge, and then we could become even more splitted. So that's one of our main challenges that we are working on. Then we have all these dependencies I showed you before. It's dependencies everywhere between all teams, and that's quite cumbersome. So that's the next thing we will analyze all these dependencies and review, okay, how can we organize in a different and more efficient way. But I think the most challenging dependencies we have is to our suppliers, and in the world situation right now it doesn't become easier. So we have a tradition in Tetra Pak working with supplier management is a lot about standardizing and having contracts and confidential agreements and so on. And even if in Tetra Pak we are organized, so development technology is one part, and then supplier management is another part, and they have not transformed to Agile way of working. So there is a challenge also, and they are not reporting to us. So trying to get them on board, that's one of our next actions we need to take. Then of course, maybe you recognize this, we have a lot of changes. Now I use a phrase that maybe not is used in Agile context, but we call it core teams. And that is due to that we have so much, we have some competences that are bottlenecks kind of. They are not used that much, but a bit everywhere. So they are specialists, and there are also some competence that needed in two teams. So we have divided our team members in core team members, and that's the core of the team that usually work like 70–100% in the team. And then we have certain team members that may be taking on demand. During this PI we need this competence, and then we have cross team members. But still, if we have just some, like 5 or 8 in the team that is called core team members, there's still a lot of changes. And that's usually due to we having the old one trying to put in resources there, and we have demands from other organizations and so on. But that's one of our main focus now. We need to have more stable core teams and really understand why we don't have that. So, as you see, we are still evolving. I don't think, as we said before in the break when I will discuss with some of you, we are never finished. I mean, we are on this road, and I think, as Carl said, this road will probably be faster going forward, because it's taking a very long time for Tetra Pak in this Agile journey, at least from my view. And we are a hardware company, so maybe that's a bit the explanation. But we started, the first experiment was in 2014, and then 2019 the Agile operating model was implemented. We had a new product creation process 3 years ago, And then we have other, the infrastructure and so on. But I don't think we are ready, and I think many of you who have been in this journey for a long time, I think the biggest challenge is not the hard stuff, the archetypes and all that. It's the mindset, and I think mainly in the management mindset.